Living Life with Lucy Kern, Realtor Rich. Hello, Realtor Rich. And we have Michelle Hawes, Realtor's Toolbox here. We are here today in regards to what is up for negotiation. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Michelle.
Oh, thanks, Lucy. It's amazing how many things you can negotiate for your clients. One of the obvious answers is price. A little higher, a little lower, depends on the circumstances. But how about timing? You could put your client at an advantage if you shorten the time where this property can close, but it could be in the seller's best interest to lengthen it a little bit. So know your audience, know what your buyers need, but when you put an offer on that property, know what that seller needs. And maybe making them happy is what helps you win that offer for your buyer. So timing could make you or break you. And the other thing that can easily be negotiated is repairs and the cost of repairs. Maybe there's a combination of your buyer ending up to do those repairs. Maybe you negotiate that the seller pays for those repairs. It could be a little bit of both. We'll fix these things and the seller pay for those things. Again, it's another one of those things where you know your buyer, where you know what the seller is okay with, and communicate with that listing agent and talk to them about what could work for everybody. Your goal is to make everybody happy. And when everybody's happy, you're going to look like a winner.
Absolutely. And we love that because we're all winners, right?
That's right.
And then, people always ask questions about rent back. Okay. I mean, rent back and rent back time. So if you happen to be representing the seller and your seller needs more time after the close of escrow, you most definitely are going to want to let the other party know that you're going to need rent back, meaning that even after the close of escrow, your seller is going to need to stay in that house for a little longer. It could be anything because maybe they need a little bit more moving time, or, the house that they're trying to move into isn't going to be ready if it's a contingent sale of another home. So that itself definitely can be negotiated amongst the buying side and the selling side. And then here we have closing costs. Closing costs could be used in a lot of different ways. You can either the buyer's agent to the seller or the listing agent can all pitch in for a closing cost depending on the situation. Whoever wants to be generous, right? And on top of that, it could also be used as a tactic where, let's just say, the seller doesn't have the money up front to be able to do repairs. So guess what? They can negotiate with the buyers and say, hey, look, we may not be able to repair this at this time, but we'll go ahead and credit you this amount so you can go ahead and use it towards your closing costs, which is, I find it to be really, really useful in a clean way to, break even in a sense with the buying and the sell with the negotiation on that. And as for the appraisal is always a question, right? A buyer I have buyers that have asked me like, okay, well, if we offer in high and the appraisal comes back lower, what are we going to do with what's in between, right? That gap in between, that's the difference. Well, sellers can choose to tell the buying side and say, hey, look, you got to come up with the difference, to be able to purchase the house. Or you can even negotiate and go back and forth and negotiate and see where you can meet in the middle, right? So you can go ahead but of course, writing in terms not to exceed a dollar amount, to make sure that you secure that amount agreed upon in the contract if it happens to be there's a gap in the appraisal. So that is my part, and I will go ahead and hand it over to Rich.
Yes. And so now this is kind of the fun part, but we're going to talk about personal property, right? Seller has personal property. The buyers come through, they see some of the personal property, and they may be interested in negotiating it into the terms of the purchase. So things like furniture or patio furniture, there might be special furniture that fits the backyard just perfectly, or there's a beautiful piano that fits in a certain room and it really accents the house nicely. Or maybe there's a pool table in, a game room area, and you want to get that. The buyer wants to get that from the seller. That can all be negotiated. In fact, I remember just a little over a year ago, I represented a seller, and in this home, they had a beautiful built-in bar. And I mean, it had everything, including about $6,000 of really high quality liquor. So I'm talking about some really expensive whiskey and other types of alcohol. The homeowner was a collector. And so he didn't really drink a lot of the stuff per se, but he had a really nice collection. And when people were coming through the property, they started asking about the bar. It was people either loved it or hated it, but the people that loved it wanted to know if the liquor came with the house. And of course, we said, ask for it. You can negotiate it in. And in that situation, the owner was leaving the country and they were not going to be taking any of the liquor with them. They were either giving it away or leaving it for whoever, wanted it.
Well, so that was a beautiful housewarming gift.
I know, right? For sure. And then there's other things too, like maybe there's a riding lawnmower or snow removal equipment or other things that fall into that personal property category, like appliances, washer and dryer, refrigerator. Maybe these are things the buyer wants, and so they want to negotiate and ask for those things in the contract. Can be kind of fun to get some things that you're going to need anyway. If the seller already has them and they're willing to part ways with them, why not just go ahead and try to negotiate it in? So definitely something to keep in mind. And then even for people that are on acreage, there could be sheep, horses, goats, any number of different types of livestock. I've seen it where goats are used to keep a lot of high brush eaten down, and it was the purpose for getting the goats. And maybe the seller is willing to leave the goats and the buyer is willing to get them because it solves a big problem on the property. So there can be a number of reasons to negotiate for livestock that is considered personal property. And so have some fun with that. But if the things are there, you can ask for it. Everything is negotiable in the end. And then I want to jump to another little topic that's been affecting us as of late. But when lenders are offering buy downs on interest rates, you can negotiate with the seller to pay a 2-for-1 buy down. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of details about how the 2-for-1 buy down works, but we're talking about a start rate that's 2% lower than what the normal going rate might be. And if the seller is willing to pay for that to make the transaction work for the buyer, then the buyer starts out with an interest rate that's 2% lower than the going rate. And then after the first year, it jumps up 1%, and then they pay the 1% lower rate for the next year. And then it goes to the fully amortized full market rate that they negotiated when they bought the house. But there is a cost to buying down the rate. And the seller, you can ask the seller to pay for that, just like you can ask them to pay for anything else. So it's a good one to think about. And it's another thing you can negotiate that can be very helpful in getting into a house. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle, and you can bring it home for us, Michelle.
Thank you. I think the seller buy down was a really great way to negotiate on the buyer's end to entice buyers to purchase a home. Back in 2020, 21, even 22, where there were multiple offers on beautiful homes, even not so beautiful homes, one thing we saw was called an escalation clause. Maybe you've heard of it. But this was a clause in the contract added by the buyer's agent that said something like, buyer will pay $1,000 above any other offer received, not to exceed $20,000. For example, so this was a way that buyers were winning offers. They were chosen because they ended up to be $1,000 over whoever was the highest offer, and the clause set in a limit. Now, there were some sellers who were ignoring this altogether, they said highest and best, we're not dealing with this escalation clause. And there were some sellers who said, hey, $1,000 is $1,000, so let's take it. So just kind of an interesting way, if you're in a bidding war kind of situation, how you can win over $1,000, for example. It's a great way to win when somebody really loves the house and everything is, and they're willing to do it. So that was kind of an interesting way to negotiate, is using that clause and how to win that way. And another one that was a cheaper option was buyers were offering to pay their own home warranty. There was a time in the market where they were paying their own, and it was a little perk, sort of like it sweetened the pot a little bit. And there are times when the market is slower and the seller is paying. Also, just something that is up for negotiations. I had one buyer who was buying a home that needed to be rehabbed completely. And they actually said no home warranty at all. And they didn't feel like they needed one. The whole house was going to be gutted, including the heating and air conditioning unit and the water heater. Like, it was all going to go. So it was sort of a nice thing to do. Every little thing written in a contract matters. And for those people, it mattered. So just something else that can be done.
Commissions, right? Commissions, you can also use that as well to help buy specific things in regards to possibly you as an agent offering to buy their home warranty, like what Michelle was saying, right? You can actually choose to do that as a gift for going towards the buyers as a nice closing gift. Or if you just wanted to be generous and let's say, I mean, in a really generous note, help actually with closing costs if they're maybe 1,000 short. I mean, that's quite a bit, but you know, I've seen some agents do that. I myself may even do that too. I haven't gone through it, but I would too if it came down to it, right? And so commissions are definitely negotiable. You know, you can give up a little bit. You can, and then as for a listing agent, you are in control of of the commission, right? The rate, right? Your rate, and you know, you can pay the other agent 3% and pay yourself 1% because you want the listing, right? I mean, it's really depending on how much percent you want in regards to put down as a listing agent as well too. You can kind of fluctuate with that and at your own choice. I've seen listing agents that actually got 1%, but I as a buyer's agent got 2.5, and I was kind of shocked. But you know, hey, maybe they cut a deal with the seller, or it could be a family member. You know, an option like that you can do as for commissions. Many things you can get creative for sure. And in regards to contingency is huge in regards to negotiation. Okay, the subjects under contingencies will be the inspection time period, the appraisal, and along with the loan contingency. So depending on which state that you're in, you would have to read, you know, what the rule is in regards to the terms of how long the contingencies are within your state as a real estate agent on your residential purchase agreement. Okay, and so, you know, we negotiate appraisal time. Just put it this way. You will win the seller over by shortening all of your contingencies, okay? And in order of shortening contingency, it also pretty much gives them a little bit more ease in regards to you closing and you working your way to closing out the transaction sooner than the typical 28 to 30 day contract of the sale of the home. So yeah, I mean, shorten the time periods. It will definitely work to your benefit if you're a buyer's agent. You know, sellers love to see that. They want to close their house as soon as possible. Everybody does. Everybody absolutely love that. So thank you, and I'll hand it over to you.
Great job, Lucy. Yeah, great job. And so to close and wrap this one up, what is up for negotiation in a real estate transaction? Pretty much everything. So many things that can be negotiated, and you want to pay attention to those things when you're representing your clients as an agent. So if you use this as a checklist, I think it'll be super helpful to you. And then look for one of our upcoming videos on choosing which offer is the best offer, because sometimes just having a higher price doesn't necessarily make it a better offer. And so we'll be covering that soon here on the Realtors Toolbox. Thank you so much for watching, and we will like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great day.